One present, they come home, they cross the name off the list, they wrap the present, put it under the tree, go back out the same day, hunt again, buy the second present, come home, cross the name off, wrap the next present. Very linear, very methodical. Most of the men are very serious right now. That's the male brain. Now, men's brains are wired for intention, for activity, for single-mindedness. Now, if you look at a functional brain scan of a woman resolving a problem, oh my God. Gentlemen, it's like a lightning storm going on in there. You know how women can change their mind 10 times in 1 second? I was in a relationship with a woman one time, and when she started talking to me, I'd say, wait, tell me what you're going to say last first. Because I don't have a lot of time. Oh, I'm having fun now. So, women's brains genetically, gentlemen, men were hunters. Go out, provide, come back, protect. Simple, basic rules. Awareness in terms of protection and survival. Women's brains, because they took care of the young, because they took care of the whole, everybody. When they made decisions, they considered everybody. The youngest child to the oldest woman, and everybody in between. They considered the whole. They considered the community. And so their brains work in a very holistic fashion. They're considering all possibilities at the same time. And because they consider the whole, or they consider the community, that's why, gentlemen, they communicate so well. Yes? And women come to conclusions differently than men without going through the methodical process. They trust their feelings. They trust their intuition. They're in touch with their emotions. They can surrender. Listen to this. They can surrender and trust an outcome without logically going through the steps that the man does. And any wise man, by the time he's 45, doesn't take counsel with a woman who's older and wiser, is missing a great opportunity. So now listen. Think about this. Women's brains are wired for the whole, for trusting an outcome, for the intuitive process, to surrender to a concept. So that's why when they go Christmas shopping, they go to the stores and the men are walking behind them and they say, oh my God, let's get 2 of these. And let's get 3 of those. And let's buy those for next Christmas. And let's get that for our trip to Venezuela. And the man says, I'm going to go watch the soccer game. Come and find me. So now think about this. What are the 2 ingredients? By the way, there's a reason I'm telling you this. What are the 2 ingredients for creation? Thought and feelings. What are the two ingredients for creation? Intention and surrender. So men's brains, the reason I use so much science in my lectures is to get men to trust in an outcome they can't perceive with their senses. To surrender to the quantum field. Even though you can't see it or smell it or taste it or feel it or hear it. Can you believe in it even though it hasn't happened yet? So we have to provide the science for men to say, I got it. I understand. I can do it. So we have to teach men how to surrender. And women, of course, we have to teach them how to become clear, single-minded, to think about themselves instead of thinking about everybody else. And get clear in what they want. And you know that any man who is clear in what he wants and who is in touch with his emotions is a very attractive man. And a woman who is very single-minded and trusts in an outcome is a charismatic being. So it takes two ingredients. And the reason we know that, because there was an experiment done a ways back where they took DNA. You know DNA? And they put DNA into a vial. Now, this is for the men. And they said, we want you to intentionally, in your mind, these were with a group of skilled people who could pray. And by the way, prayer is a skill. They said, we want you to intend on this DNA unwinding. Focus and intend on it, just unwinding. And at the end of the time frame, when they checked the DNA, guess what happened? Nothing. Then they took a group of people and they said, listen, we want you to move into an elevated state of joy and emanate goodwill and inspiration. Just do that around the DNA. And guess what happened to the DNA? Nothing. Nada. But when they said, now, we want you to intentionally focus on that DNA. We want you to move into this elevated state as if it already unwound. And feel how you would feel in that state of heartfelt emotion, of joy. And when they combine those two ingredients, thinking and feeling, 25% change in the DNA. So what are you thinking and what are you feeling every single day? Because your thoughts are the electrical field that you produce. That's intention. And how you feel is the magnetic field that you produce. And so our thinking and feeling produce an electromagnetic field around us that affects every single atom in your life. How many people believe that may be possible? Gentlemen? I'm not done yet. You got to see it to believe it. You got to believe it to see it. Now, I'm teasing him, but you know what? Our repetitive thinking and feeling, our repetitive behaviors, the concept in neuroscience. Are you guys still geniuses? Come on. Still geniuses? The concept in neuroscience says nerve cells that fire together wire together. So your repetitive thoughts and your repetitive actions, your behaviors and your intentions force neurons to fire and develop long-term relationships. So if you're thinking the same thoughts and performing the same actions every single day, could you understand how the brain would become hardwired into a certain pattern? 20 years of thinking and feeling and behaving the same way, the neurons become very finite set of circuits. When someone says you're thinking in the box, you're not thinking any other way but the way you typically think. So then to think outside the box is to force the brain to fire in new sequences, in new patterns, and in new combinations. The concept in neuroscience is called neuroplasticity. And what is the main ingredient to make the brain begin to fire in new patterns, to begin to think outside the box? The main ingredient is called knowledge. Learning. Every time you learn something new, you make a new connection in your brain. Learning is making new synaptic connections. Remembering is maintaining or sustaining those connections. So would you agree then as a genius that if you're making new connections, learning new things, wouldn't you agree that those new circuits you could use to make the brain fire in new ways? And do you think that you would perceive reality differently because of the new circuits you made? So I want to play a little game with you. Imagine I put up on the screen there a picture of a Monet painting. And I said, "Isn't that a beautiful painting?" And you would all say, beautiful, beautiful. Then if I took that painting and I took it down off the screen, and I said to you, "You guys know anything about Monet? Do you know that he spent his whole life trying to see things differently? He was fascinated with light. He loved the light first thing in the morning, and he loved the light at sunset. And he tried to capture that light in his paintings so that when people saw his paintings, they would begin to look for it in nature and appreciate nature. And he was known to say things like, the bridge and the wisteria are one and the same. And as a child, his family owned a textile mill. And he would sit and watch the two fabrics come together. And he would trance on how they would form a pattern. And he wanted to paint that way. And as he got older, he developed cataracts in his eyes. Thick protein coating over the lens. And when he looked at the light, the cataract diffused the light. So he started to paint exactly what he was seeing in those impressionistic patterns. And when he was in his elder years, the doctor said, "Listen, you have cataracts. We can take those cataracts out." And he said, "Are you crazy? I spent 45 years of my life trying to see this way." Now, if I put that painting back up on the screen, would you see it differently? Come on. What's changed?